It's the Turbo and 2K show.
What's up, 2K crew? Yes, it is that time of the week again, and the Turbo and 2Ks working overtime, giving you some content on this holiday weekend. 2Ks, how was your Christmas, my friend?
It was really good. It was good. Good to get a couple days off of work. Good to be around all of my family.
Yeah.
The kids had a really good Christmas.
Oh, I'm sure.
So that makes my year and it makes Chow's year. Yeah, I mean, nothing to complain about. The only unfortunate thing is back to reality tomorrow for a couple more days this week of work, and then we get to do it again with another long weekend. So
hey, bring it on. Yeah, next weekend, my weekend's even longer because I get Thursday and Friday off.
Yes.
So that's a bonus. But everything was kind of same old here. I mean, this is my, I want to say fourth Christmas with Kristen and the kids, so I'm kind of used to the routine. I'm used to their traditions and everything. We went out to Weatherby Road and saw that awesome house that they have going. So
it was amazing out there.
Yeah, it's kind of become one of our new traditions. We were sitting here Christmas Eve, and I was like, "Babe, we haven't gone out to the Weatherby house yet." She goes, "Oh crap! Well, let's change that. So we did that, and so yeah, that's it. It just blows my mind how much time that actually takes to set up. Just blows my mind. And on a road that especially this time of year at night, there's really only one reason to go down there.
Yeah.
Unless you live on Weatherby Road, and I think there's maybe like 5 or 6 homes on that whole entire road. So, but big shout out to you. I mean, I'm sure that makes not only me and my family happy, but other people's families as well. Let's get into it, 2Ks. Man, we've got this NFL season, dude, is I'm pretty sure we've started out every show with a head scratcher. It's like, what the fuck's going on? What you would think by now, week 16, 2 more weeks to go in the books, that we'd have a better handle on who these teams are. What, you would think, at least betting wise, it would get easier. But it hasn't. And I mean, that's good on the NFL. But no, I guess all around it's good for the NFL. There's more parity. There's more teams ever that are still alive, potentially for the playoff spots. So we will get into that. We'll look over the NFC, the AFC. But before we do that, if you're on the YouTube side, which I do see a couple of you are watching live, if you haven't, go ahead and subscribe, drop a comment. We'll feature you on the show. And let's get a conversation started. And for those of you on the podcast side, go ahead and follow us, give us a like, drop a comment, and we will we'll give you a shout out on next week's episode. And for those of you feeling extra saucy and you love the new graphics, go to buyturbobeer.com. And you can help support the show financially. And we will give you a big shout out on the show. Well, 2Ks, let's jump into this NFC race. The NFC race, and I'm going to try something new here. I'm going to try to share my screen here live on the show. So give me 1 second. No. Okay. And we are on ESPN.com for those of you following along. And let me get down to the NFC here. So when it comes to the NFC 2Ks, is there anyone that's going to knock off the Packers?
It's right now, to me, the Packers are the team to beat, obviously, but they're not.
They're the team to beat in the NFC and the AFC, or just the NFC right now?
I think they're the team to beat in the entire NFL. But they're not just winning games like single-handedly. They're close games. They're playing close games down to the wire. Their defense has been, very, very improved compared to what we've seen. Compared to with a lot of injuries, and they've been better than what we've seen a Green Bay defense in years.
Yeah,
but it's still the offense. It's just not. I mean, Aaron Rodgers he's my MVP at this point right now in the season. He's carrying this team. As many injuries as they had. We've talked about the injuries on the defensive side of the ball. The offensive side of the ball has had more injuries throughout this entire season talking about that offensive line that has basically just been pieced together this entire season, missing multiple All-Pro offensive linemen there, and but to me it's the offense that just hasn't really clicked yet. You're getting everything out of Devontae, but I'm still kind of waiting for another wide receiver to step up there. Randall Cobb has been injured a little bit. He's kind of one of the veterans that you thought maybe could step up possibly come playoff time. And then at running back, you're still getting Aaron Jones, and then Aaron Jones has been really good. And then what's the other backup? The
Dylan.
Dylan. Dylan's been very good for him this year, but
Jones has been banged up a little bit too.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to me like they're getting help from people in places that traditionally they haven't gotten help from.
Mm.
Aaron Rodgers has never really had a dominant defense, and now he's got, if memory serves me correctly, a top 5 defense in the NFL. And add on top of that, you've got Davante Adams. I mean, arguably the best receiver in the league, if not number one, top 3 in the league, and he's getting a running game behind an offensive line that's kind of spotty. David Bakhtiari hasn't played all year. There's not, I mean, yes, Davante Adams is a standout receiver. He is going to garner most of the attention. However, is there a number 2? I mean, you got Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Who's hurt, who's been out, and then you got Lazard, who can't catch. he couldn't catch his ass if he sat in his hands right now. I mean, I that guy to me, like, it seems like he should score a touchdown every single week, and he probably has like 3 touchdowns throughout this entire season, and that's just because he's got Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback, who sets him up, and then it has Devontae on the other side, who I don't care what anybody says. I don't care about the season that Cooper Kupp is having. Davante Adams is still the best wide receiver in the NFL right now, and so when you have that on one side, that should open you up. I mean, being the number 2 receiver should be, I'm just waiting for somebody to step up and take that role over, and we haven't seen it yet. So,
no, and add on top of that, big shout out to Aaron and MVS for getting that record breaking. What was it? 443. 443 passing touchdowns to move ahead of Brett Favre, which I mean that's huge. I mean you're talking about on some people's, I'm not saying everybody's, but some people's Mount Rushmore of NFL quarterbacks. So even to be in that conversation, I think is huge. And then to Lazard, which. And then later on that game, he throws the touchdown to Devontae, so they become the top connection in Green Bay history. If I'm not mistaken, that was held by Favre and Jordy Nelson. So big shout out to them. But watching these Packer games, 2Ks, I think the only question I have is it comes down to the special teams. I mean, they're and it sounds like we're sitting here kind of nitpicking on the Packers. However, this I mean, punt, punt cover, kickoff return, kickoff. I mean, they're horrible. And then just the
Crosby kicking has been.
It's been an adventure.
Yeah,
it's been an adventure, and I mean, we've seen Crosby go through this, but it hasn't been in quite some time. And so he's what kind of gives him a pass for me, 2Ks, is we've seen this song and dance before. Golfers get the yips and can work through it. Kickers, on the other hand, sometimes can't work through those yips. So we've seen him do that. So, but just the cover teams. I mean, they're giving up way too many return yards, and just all the simple miscues and everything else. And it would suck for a team that's this good to have a hiccup in the playoffs because of a punt return or a kick return. So, I mean, are those things fixable between now and then? I'm not sure. I
don't know either, because we've been talking. That seems to kind of be the knock on Green Bay all season long, and you would think by this time in the season you would have that shit kind of cleaned up. and we're not to that point yet. That's kind of worrisome to me. Obviously you have Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is going to win you a lot of football games. And if it wasn't for Aaron Rodgers being on this playing quarterback for this team, look, we saw it earlier in the season when Jordan Love had to make that start, and with Rodgers out because of COVID, and it was a completely different team. I mean, it was a completely different offense. I mean, it just looked like shit. And my thing is though, and it's hard for me. Like right now, I say that they're my favorite to win it all. But I think that there's not much of a gap there. When you turn the Cleveland over 4 times, 4 interceptions, Baker Mayfield's awful.
They made Baker look like shit.
And then you still only win the game at your home field by 2.
Yeah.
I get it. This point of the season, a win's a win. Doesn't matter how it comes. There's going to be a lot of games late in the season like this that are going to come down to the wire. A lot of teams are injured. A lot of teams are tired. So anytime you win a football game, you got to be happy with it. But if I'm a Packers fan, I'm a little bit worried right now with the way things are playing out.
Yeah, that in my opinion should have been a 3-score game.
Absolutely. I mean, when the Browns throw 4 picks,
yeah,
for sure. And getting back to that, another wide receiver that's going to have to step up. They're going to have to go through a team like the Rams in the playoffs who have Jalen Ramsey, and Jalen Ramsey's going to lock up on Devontae. And I think that they're probably going to defend them a little bit differently than we watched a couple weeks ago when Green Bay was able to beat LA. I think they're going to, if that matchup happens again, they're going to defend him a little bit differently. Or if they line up against the Cowboys. Cowboys have a very good defense this year, and they pick a lot of balls off, and I mean that defense has kind of come out of nowhere. So that's another scary defense. I think you can kind of write, or at least I've kind of written Arizona out. I don't know what happened to them, other than the fact that they just kind of quit letting Kyler do his thing and run the football. I don't know if there's an injury like what we had last year, but he just doesn't run the ball. I get last night he had maybe 6 or 7 carries, or 2 nights ago he had 6 or 7 carries. Or no, it was last night, and but. He's a guy that's got to be running the ball 11, 12 times and extending plays, and we're just not seeing it. It's almost like they want to try to, as much as they can, to keep him in the pocket.
Yeah.
And keeping him in the pocket is the last thing. He's just so undersized, and trying to look over, his offensive line or any of these defensive lines, it just seems like he gets a lot of balls batted down, and that's just not his. That's not his strength, is playing in that pocket. So.
No. And kind of put a bow on the Packers. They have won their division. So we're going to go through. I mean, they locked up the division last week. So their last 2 remaining games, Vikings at home and then at the Lions. So could they have a misstep next week? Sure, but I have a feeling once they get to the Lions, it will be.
I'm going to be at that game, by the way.
Very nice. Very nice.
I'm going to go to that game, and probably A-Rod probably won't be playing. It'll probably be Jordan Love, who I was talking about earlier, and Devontae probably won't be playing, so it'll probably be Alan Lazard as the number 1 receiver. And then who knows what Detroit will throw out there at this point. But
to kind of segue into here, next team we're going to talk about is what the fuck? Okay, there we go. Dallas Cowboys. They are playing right now against the Washington football team, and this shouldn't even be a game. Dallas should just run away with this, but Heineke is back, and you kind of brought up the defense, and the defense is what's been winning this team games right now. Yeah. Dak has not been the same Dak as we saw him start the season off, and now on that defense you have not one but two possible defensive MVP candidates. I mean, pretty much, in my opinion, defensive rookie of the year. So, I mean, a defense that we harped on last year for the last couple years, 2Ks, about being just god awful, and the offense has to put up 35, 40 points just to win every game. It's not the case. I mean, this is a ball hawking defense. I mean,
this was the worst defense, and I think it's pretty safe to say they're the worst defense in the NFL last year.
Oh, hands down.
Did start to improve towards the end of the year, but still were awful. And this year to be a top 5 defense, pretty impressive. I mean, there's a lot of the credit you have to give to Dan Quinn, obviously coming in as the new defensive coordinator. We saw what he did as a defensive coordinator with Seattle. We talked a lot about that before the season even started. You know, the change with Dallas's defense having his presence, and I mean, he showed that he knows what he's doing when it comes to the defensive side of the ball.
And he, you know, and he's got 2 brand new toys in the this year's draft and the year previous, where you know, you being the resident Cowboys fan, I mean, both first round draft picks this year and last, I mean, you were extremely satisfied with both of them.
Oh, absolutely. And you look at last year with the second round pick being Trayvon Diggs. Yeah, and Micah Parsons this year, just can't say enough about him. He is. What gets me is just how versatile he is. It's not like he just locks down and plays one position on that defense. He's had to fill in for a lot of injuries, and he's played out of position. He's played out everywhere, and it's really to the point now where you can't say he's playing out of position because he's the best option they have at every position, except for anything in the secondary. So,
he's just playing
with
everywhere.
the speed and the way that he plays, something tells me he probably could play in the secondary too,
if need be in a pinch. Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't put it past me. But I think what's the big Achilles heel with this team 2Ks is what we thought going into the season was going to be an extreme, you know, just positive is the running game right now. You know, you got an offensive line that's banged up. Zeke hasn't been healthy for weeks. Didn't see if Tony Pollard's playing this week.
He is playing this week, but he's another one has a foot injury, and I think Dak's been battling it too.
Oh yeah. You
Obviously,
can tell
he missed some time earlier in the season, and he's been grinding it out, playing now. You know, and I know that they're playing for that.
What the fuck? He caught the ball and then lateraled it.
They're playing for that home field advantage and everything, but maybe it is time to slow it up a little bit these last couple weeks and make sure that, you know, I don't think you're gonna get any of these guys at 100%, but you might need to get them fixed up a little bit before the big games start in the playoffs.
And the receivers too haven't been helping Dak out a lot at all.
No.
I mean, we've seen CeeDee Lamb, who's normally very sure-handed, drop balls in big spots lately. Amari Cooper seems to have just disappeared off the team until right there. But I think when it comes to the offense, we just need more consistency. We just need more consistency. The defense is going to ball out. Unlike the Packers, you really can't say much about their special teams. So is it something you can fix going down and leading into the playoffs? Like I said, they're playing Washington right now. Then they have the wounded Cardinals, and then at Philadelphia. So it would seem like 2 very winnable games. However, which Cardinals team are they going to get, 2Ks? That's going to be the question. Yeah. And number 3, the LA Rams. This is a team that I'm pretty sure even before the season started, on paper, we're like, holy shit, this team is going to score, with a defense that's just going to be relentless. And at times, we've seen both during the same game. But there's been more times than not. I mean, granted, we're sitting here nitpicking, they're 10-4. That's not horrible, especially this year where, you know, it seems to be the win-loss record at this point of any team right now is very different from what we even thought would be going into the season. But Rams have a 57% chance to win the division, and their remaining schedule is at the Ravens, which we'll get into the Ravens here in a little bit, and at the 49ers at home. And that game right there might have the 49ers playoff hopes in full effect. So with this team, 2Ks, we've seen the ups, we've seen the downs of Matt Stafford. And today was one of those, I wouldn't call it a down. It was definitely less than mediocre. With that offense, those receivers, granted, Robert Woods was like that safety blanket that he had. That injury has seemed to cause a lot more turmoil than what we had even thought going into this. So I think we can see this team get everything back on track, but it's still, to me, it's like, okay, which one of these teams is going to show up? I mean, they're obviously all in. They trade for Von Miller, which This version of Von Miller is not the NFL or the defensive MVP Von Miller from Denver. But in this defense, you're not asking him to be. I mean, you got Aaron Donald and that whole crew there. It should be just one more, bullet in the gun, if you want to think about it that way. And for just the inconsistencies of this team drive me nuts. Yes, there's been injuries. I understand that, but I don't know. This is just one of those teams. I have no idea what to expect week in and week out. What about you?
Yeah, I think earlier in the year, when they were still trying to figure out their identity, I was kind of worried about them. Obviously, today was Stafford was not sharp. He throws the 3 interceptions. Mm-hmm. But what I'm seeing with this team that kind of scares me is I think they're starting to kind of figure that identity out. Yeah. They lost Robert Woods. I truly believe he was the catalyst of that offense. Did he put up the Cooper Kupp numbers? No. But he was the catalyst of that offense. He was the one that they had running the jet sweeps with. They have him, he was the safety blanket for Stafford there for a long time. And you take him out of that offense, and I think it took a little bit for them to figure out what they had. And the last 3 weeks, they figured out that they need to run the football. Yeah. They need to be more balanced. And they went to Sony Michel. Some injuries kind of opened it up for him, and they went to him, and he has just ran with it. 20 carries 3 weeks ago against Arizona, has 90-some yards. I think he had 18 carries in the Tuesday night game of last week, and he ends up with like 80-some yards. Today has over 20 carries for 120 yards. Mm-hmm. That's what this offense needs to do. They need to be more balanced. You go back to when they were in the Super Bowl against the Patriots in that game, and where they lose to Brady. They ran the football. Yeah, It was Todd Gurley. It was a different name back there, but they ran the football all the way up until they got to the playoffs when something happened to Gurley. Yeah. But throughout that entire season where they were the best team in the regular season that year, they were running the football. They were running the football, and that was setting up the pass. And we're starting to see that now with this team, and they might. I think they're starting to click at the right time. And this is a team that could be really, really scary because the big names that they have on that defense. Talking about Jalen Ramsey earlier, when you get that situation where they're playing against the Packers, Jalen Ramsey against Devontae could, he can. I'm not saying he could stop him, but he can neutralize Devontae, sure. which is what you need to do against that offense. And then offensively for them, if they can get Sony Michel running the football, and then opening up the passing game where you still have, Cooper Kupp, who's having just an amazing season this year. Odell Beckham is still Odell, and since he's made this change and went over here, he's been very solid for them.
And the more they're working him in, you can kind of see the more open that offense is getting, the more comfortable you can see him getting. And lastly, you can see the trust between him and Stafford grow. So you're very right. This would be a scary team to face in the playoffs. It's just which one are you going to get?
Yes, and that's the thing. They are very scary to face because of all the star power. Right? I mean, they have so many big names, and obviously quarterback Stafford, who never really has been able to, play in any of these big games, obviously playing for his entire career in Detroit. But this is a much better option than Jared Goff, when Jared Goff ever was.
100%.
And this team has the star power, and they have the quarterback in line that if they can, they get hot, which I think they are. I think they're starting to get hot at the right time. This can be a very scary team to run across in the playoffs, and would not shock me if this is a team that we see make it to the Super Bowl.
Speaking of Super Bowls, 2Ks, Tampa's been in one. And it's looking like they're making a run for a second one. However, I'm looking at this, and I'm pretty sure that it says they 99% chance to win the division. I'm almost positive they clinched today.
Yeah.
Remaining games at the Jets, and then the Panthers come into Tampa. So very, very winnable games. They destroy a Panthers team that is absolutely horrible. But the big question mark here is who's going to be on the field with Brady? I mean, Gronk's on, but we've seen him be injury prone. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette. Fournette and Evans, I believe, are out for at least the rest of the regular season.
Yeah, Godwin's out for the year, for sure. He's not coming back.
So are they going to need a lot of offense to beat the Jets and the Panthers? No. But it's just a matter of when are these guys going to get back.
Yeah.
And the defense is flying around. They've had a lot of guys come off IR at the right time, and I mean, when it comes down to it, 2K is where we're nitpicking at a Bucks team that I think at this time is 11-4.
Mm-hmm.
You really, I mean, how much can you nitpick on that? And they still got the GOAT. Brady's healthy. Still at age 75 and a half, is still looking technically and fundamentally wise better than he did in his 20s. So obviously at this point, Tampa, LA, even the Cowboys, I think. I mean, there's outside chances that they will or they can get the first round bye. Is it likely? No. I think both of you and I will agree that unless something catastrophic happens, the playoffs are going to have to run through Lambeau. Does that seem about right?
At this point, yes, that's how I feel. As far as this Buccaneers team, yeah, the injuries scare me a little bit. The defense has been very good. They have been getting healthier. There's a secondary that's kind of been gashed throughout this entire season. Obviously, what they have defensively up front, very, very good. Mm-hmm. Probably the best in the league. But offensively, yeah, the injuries scare me. Not having Godwin, that's a huge name, and he's not coming back. And Mike Evans with the hamstring injury, those things tend to linger sometimes. Mm-hmm. Who knows how long we could be with that? Leonard Fournette, who was, running the ball great there.
Just hitting his stride, too.
Yes. For him to go down with the hamstring injury, especially for a running back, who knows how long it's going to be until we see him back.
Speaking of your boy Diggs, it looks like he picked another one off.
Yeah, so that worries me with him as far as with the Bucks there is, and I just don't, and I don't know, and it seems like every year people try to find a way to kind of rule Brady out, and he's not, and he just keeps on proving you wrong over and over again. But from what I've seen throughout this season, I just don't think that Tampa is as good of a football team as the Packers, especially, but and really even as the Rams. I think I have the Rams ahead of them right now. So the Cardinals have fallen off. The Cowboys, with all their injuries, they kind of worry me a little bit. Obviously, my fandom wants them to be the best, but if I'm using my brain with it, I think that the Cowboys are still, 3 in the NFC, maybe even 4 behind Tampa. So I kind of have them slated there. To me, my top 2 teams are Packers 1, Rams 2.
And you mentioned them, and that's the I don't know why this keeps doing it. Let's go to don't ask again. Okay, hopefully that fixes it. Arizona, are they fucking dead? Are they fucking dead?
Yep, I think they are. I think they're dead. When you take DeAndre Hopkins off the field, away from that offense, it's like they have. I think it's Kyler Murray's safety blanket, because all you really have to do is just throw the ball in the area of DeAndre, it seems like, and he comes down with it every time. Yeah. And anything that touches his fingers, he catches. He doesn't drop anything. But you take him away, this offense has just looked clueless. Yeah. James Conner obviously had something going. He had something going there for a few weeks, but they missed him again last night. He was out.
So did my fantasy team.
And offensive line has just been very, very Defense has just kind of been. Their defense has had really, really good games and then really, really bad games. So it's just kind of been inconsistent. But they've gotten away with it throughout the season because their offense was so good there for a stretch. Well, now they've went through this stretch of the last month of football where they just haven't been the same. And I don't know. I think it's something happened there with Kyler injury wise. Kind of similar to what happened last year, where he had a foot injury. Obviously, he missed three weeks, maybe 4 weeks this season because of the ankle injury that happened during the Packers game. So I don't know if they're trying to limit him, and then maybe get to the playoffs, and then let him go right back to because I think they're still going to get in. Yeah, I think they're going to make the playoffs. So maybe they're thinking we just need to get into the playoffs and have Kyler be as close to as 100% as we can. Because if he's 100%, they can beat anybody in the league. Yeah, that's the kind of special player that he is. But I think the other thing that kind of worries me with them is Cliff Kingsbury is just not a very good coach.
No, I mean he both this year and last year. I mean, they have glimpses of being the best team in the NFL. And all of a sudden, I don't know what, and I'm pretty sure no one else knows what's going on unless you're inside that building is, like you said, is Kyler healthy?
Yeah.
What the hell's going on with him? I mean, I was watching part of the game this week, and he did a little boot to the left and ran to the sideline, and it looked like he was almost limping. And it's like, all right, well, is it the ankle injury again? To me, it looked more like a hamstring.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, injury bug has bitten them, but it's been the same with every team. So maybe I don't know. I'm not saying he's a horrible coach. It's just with that squad that you have, you should be, which they were up until 3 weeks ago. I mean, they were the best team in the NFC.
I thought so too. I truly thought so also. And I know I'm not saying that he's a horrible coach, but I'm not saying he's a great coach. And he lost his job at the college level at Texas Tech when he had Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback.
Yeah.
So his resume it just is not that impressive to me, especially not as impressive as a lot of these other young guys that we're seeing get opportunities, as to be an NFL coach. But when you see teams that are so inconsistent, you just don't. That to me is a reflection of the coach, and maybe I'm wrong for having that opinion, but that's how I feel on it. And when you have a team when you don't ever know what team is going to show up, that is a reflection on the coach to me. When you look at just going to throw an example out there of a young coach that's getting his chance. I'm going to talk about Matt LaFleur in Green Bay.
All he's done is fucking win in Green Bay.
All he has done is win. All he has done with that team is be consistent. Yeah, and maybe it is easier when you have Aaron Rodgers. I mean, sure.
He's got Kyler Murray.
But the big knock was during the offseason was they got to figure it out on defense. They figured it out on defense, and this defense has been consistent all season long. Aaron Rodgers and the offense has been consistent all season long. They had more media attention on them this offseason than any NFL team ever has had.
Well, even every Tuesday when Pat McAfee has Aaron Rodgers Tuesday, you can watch ESPN, and it will be 5 minutes, 10 minutes into the interview, and they're showing highlights already about Aaron Rodgers. And, and rightfully so. And, I mean, granted, he's a reigning MVP. He's looking like he could possibly get his second in a row. And then add on top of that the drama and everything for the offseason, that does attract some attention. And then you add all of that on the way he's playing now, and kind of he up until the last year when he started doing this with Pat was he really didn't talk to the media. He did his pressers and then he was out. I mean, you never really saw him talk about anything or even get to really know the dude. And I think that's what that's why he's so polarizing and that's kind of what makes Brady so polarizing is A, they're great, and B, when people are great, people want to see what makes them tick. Yeah. So when you get a player like Kyler, who physically should be able to do everything on the football field and some things better than a lot of the greats, it's that step, it's that mental hurdle, it's that maybe the proverbial getting the monkey off your back type thing. And I don't know if that's the case with this team or what, but 2K's to close out the season, they're at Dallas, and then the Seahawks come in. Yeah. And the Seahawks, who knows what team you're gonna find with them, especially the last game of the season. So I mean, the Seahawks lost to a very bad Bears team today. So which Russell Wilson are you gonna get? And we'll kind of speculate later on, the ramifications of that, because I think most folks will kind of agree that that's going to get blown up. Sure. You might as well get value for Russ while you can, while he's still in his prime, and his peak is still going to be there, the whole 9 yards. So that's still up for debate. But speaking of young coaches, 2Ks, let's talk about the Niners. Talk about the Niners. They're on a good little run. They were. I mean, they lost one this week to me that they could not afford to take that loss. That loss was pretty much in my mind, they had to win out. They had to win out. Yep. And Yeah, it's again a young coach.
This is the. Is the stage mine? Can I let her fly now? Because I've been saying it all season long.
I'm throwing you the biggest softball I can here.
I've been saying it all season long. I've been saying it for longer than this season. They cannot be successful with Garoppolo as their quarterback.
You and I watched that game together.
Is Garoppolo an NFL caliber quarterback? Absolutely, he is. Is he a quarterback that's gonna get you win Super Bowls? No, he's not. No. He's not. He is not that guy. Can he do it? Well, yeah. He got them to a Super Bowl here a couple years ago where they fell short. Mm-hmm. But that was because that team was just fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, they were running the football better than we've seen an NFL team run the football in years. They had Kittle was playing out of his mind at defense with Robert Saleh, who's now a head coach for the Jets. Was the defensive coordinator there, one of the most sought after coordinators. Everybody was, interested in him becoming a head coach, and now, look at it 2 years later, he is the head coach of the Jets. There was so much...
Which after his Jets experience might want to go back to the 49ers.
Yeah, sure, but there was so much star power, not only as players on that team, but as coaches also on that team. And then throw in the fact that Kyle Shanahan is the head coach, and I consider Kyle Shanahan to be maybe the best coach in the NFL. He's right. If he's not, he's right up there, in my opinion. And obviously Bill Belichick probably takes the cake on that. But right now, a coach that you can have for the next 10 years, building your franchise team. Kyle Shanahan's top on that list for me. Mm-hmm. So, but getting back to Jimmy G, man. You have so much talent on that team, and you got a guy, Deebo Samuel, who right now, Jesus, I mean, we talked about Devontae being the best, Cooper Kupp. What Deebo can do, he's lining up and playing running back and running like he's one of the best running backs in the league.
Yeah.
And then catching the ball for over 100 yards, it seems like every game, scoring a touchdown every week. The kid is amazing, and then their offensive line is so good. Honestly, it doesn't even matter who they have healthy at running back because they've put about 3 or 4 different ones out there all season long because they just haven't been healthy there.
Seems like the last 3 years that's been the story.
And whoever's running rushes for over 100 yards. It seems like it doesn't matter who it is. And then what Brandon Ayuk has done here the last couple years or the last couple weeks, kind of coming out of nowhere. He's starting to kind of solidify himself as the number 2 guy, receiver there. And then, probably number 3 receiver because number 2 is Kittle.
Yeah.
But then here comes Jimmy G, and he throws interceptions, and he misses wide open throws, and he just
Juszczyk that pass to Juszczyk where you can't
miss it. You cannot miss that.
He will never be that wide open in the NFL again. And what was one of the things that I told you when we were watching that game? How much better would this team be if they switch quarterbacks? If Ryan Tannehill was a quarterback, and
that's not saying much.
No,
because I don't think I think Tannehill's in that category also for me, where he can win football games and he can be an NFL quarterback, but is he going to win rings?
Derrick Henry
might win one for him.
Yeah, but he can't put the team on his shoulders like a Rodgers, like a Brady, and just basically take over a game. But yeah, I think they're sitting there at 8-7. If Tannehill was that quarterback, they're at 11 wins.
And that's the one thing for me is it time? Is it time that you just and I understand they kind of got themselves where they were playing really, really good football this last month, and they worked their way up closer. And I think that for Shanahan it was, we're going to stick with the veteran. We're going to play with the veteran because there for that month, he wasn't fucking up. He wasn't doing anything spectacular, and he wasn't winning football games for them.
They're still in the running to win the division.
But he wasn't doing anything to lose.
Right.
He was allowing everybody else to do what they needed to do, and they were winning. And then the Titans game comes around, and he lost that football game for them. He lost that football game, and quite.
What was it? 20-17? Yeah, it was 20-17. A Titans team that in a Niners secondary that let Brown just fucking go off. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was his career high in receiving yards, which I find rather shocking for how great an athlete he is. But just goes to show you how much they don't need a receiver when Derrick Henry's healthy. Yep. So But no, I really, yeah, it's definitely a team that I have a feeling now that which they still have a 70% chance to make the playoffs according to ESPN. But they have the Texans coming in, and then they're at the Rams. So, I mean, is it time to run Trey Lance out and see what he can do? I mean, you pretty much mortgage the farm for the next couple years with first-round draft picks. Is it time for the Trey Lance experiment? See what the hell he can do. I mean, granted, I do have a feeling that if he was healthy this whole time, we probably would have seen him by now. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that him getting injured led to him not starting. I just think that it slowed down his progression. It slowed down his education for the most part. And I think that's why we haven't seen him yet, just because you kind of have to, it's one of those, you got to dance with the girl that you brought type thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that now that the prize is kind of gone. But then again, if you do go to Trey Lance, is Shanahan throwing up the red flag to the rest of the team and saying, well, this year's fucked. Let's see what this kid can do, and you guys better play for him. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that could be a good thing, that could be a bad thing, but yeah, we will definitely see what's going on. But that team is just too good to be 8-7.
I agree.
Even in that division. I
agree. And a team that we haven't even mentioned yet, and maybe you're going to bring them up, but to me, I think Philadelphia is sitting in a better place than San Francisco is right now with what they have remaining on their schedule, because their last game of the season is going to be against a Cowboys team who is probably going to be clinched into their spot and not going to be able to pass the Packers for that home field advantage, to where they might just sit all their starters, and probably will sit, probably should sit all those guys.
But you kind of mentioned the Eagles. I was gonna they were one team away, but the other team that sitting at number 7 is the Minnesota Vikings. What was the score? They did not win that game today, correct?
No, they lost to the Rams.
That's what I thought. But it was even though it seemed like the Rams went up and down the field at will, getting back to the Matthew Stafford interceptions, that game was a 30-23 game. And in my eyes, I mean, granted, if I remember correctly, I did not have Dalvin Cook today. I'm almost positive they didn't. No, they did not. But I mean, that's a huge piece right there. If Dalvin Cook is healthy, this Minnesota team might have knocked off the Rams. But again, I think you can have the same argument for Minnesota as you can for San Francisco. You look at the weapons on the offensive side for Minnesota. You got a top 5 running back, 2 of the top, I'd say 10 wide receivers in the league, and J. Jeff and Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen was back today. So the only really downfall with the Vikings is that you are in that division with the man, the myth, the legend, Aaron Rodgers. So would it be? And I think you and I agree. I hate Kirk Cousins. Mm-hmm. Not as a person. He could be a very nice person, but as far as on the field, is he fiery? Is he competitive? Does he hate to lose? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. But with those weapons, there should be, in Minnesota traditionally has always had a very, very stout defense. Mm-hmm. It's, again, one of those teams, and this is going to be a reoccurring theme, I think it has been for the whole year. Which Minnesota team are we going to get? Mm-hmm. So, and then the other teams kind of in the hunt are the Saints, which the Saints are down to their 4th string quarterback.
I just can't. And the saddest thing about it is if the Saints, and I've talked so much shit about Jameis Winston, but if Winston was healthy, the Saints are in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Easy in my opinion.
I mean, when you have a defense that shuts out Tom Brady, granted, that was the game that all 3 of those dudes went down.
Sure.
But to shut him out, not to beat him, but to shut him out. On the flip side, you only scored 9 points. Taysom Hill looked fucking horrible. And if you're a Saints fan and Ian Book's going to start for you tomorrow night, he can't get much worse.
No.
I will say this. I have a feeling he's going to be a way better passer than Taysom Hill is.
I think so. Oh, I think for sure.
I'm not going to say more mobile, but as mobile. Is he a downhill runner like Taysom Hill? No. But what other quarterback besides Josh Allen really is? I mean, those two are pretty much Bulldogs when you think about it that way. And I think going forward with the Saints, because if Taysom had so many snaps, his contract went from like $10 million this year to $40 because he would be considered a quarterback. So as a Saints fan, you're hoping that either he becomes the dude or, excuse me, is the furthest thing away from the dude to save yourself that cap room. Because if you look up the Saints cap room, it's fucking horrible. It's horrible. So that would be a huge, huge blow if Taysom does reach that milestone, but yet sucks, which he does. Mm-hmm. He's a great athlete. He's a great football player. Is he a great quarterback? No. And then the last team here is Washington, which they're at 6-8, and then you should not reach the playoffs with a less than 500 record, in my opinion.
No, they're bad. They've just injuries have kind of played through this entire season for them. I mean, that has been.
I do love Heineke. Is he a great game-winning quarterback? No, but that if you could take the heart, the grit, and just the attitude and the want out of that kid and put it in some other people, you would have a top 5 quarterback of all time. Does he have the skills to get there? I don't think so, but just as a tough nose to the grindstone kid, I absolutely love him. And with this Washington team, and there's another pick. Lawrence gets a pick. It was like Oprah. You get a pick, and you get a pick, and you get a pick. He threw it right to him. Threw it right. See, Heineke, I'm trying to give you props, motherfucker, and you throw a goddamn interception right on cue. It's the Turbo and 2K's curse. But 2K's, let's switch gears. Maybe if my mouse will. There we go. To the AFC. All right. Switch it over here to the AFC. And a few weeks ago, 2Ks, the Kansas City Chiefs were dead. They were dead. Patrick Mahomes was awful. This team sucked. What's going on? The offense is broke. The defense can't stop anybody. Excuse me, I am gassy tonight. They're 10-4 with the best record in the AFC. So if you has the proverbial switch been flipped? Maybe. I think the last 2 weeks, Mahomes has been more Mahomes-like. Mm-hmm. And I watched most of that game today, and the commentators were even saying he's taking the checkdowns more instead of forcing shit like he was earlier in the season, which is the key to this team. Can they still hit the home run? Sure. Do you have to do it every single play? No. And they're running the ball. I mean, CEH goes out today with, hopefully, is not a broken collarbone, but it's looking like it. And it was Jim Nantz and Tony Romo that were calling the game. And TJ Watt goes out with, he had some bruised ribs. Now they think they're cracked ribs. So they're talking to Tony Romo about how it is to play with that injury. And then CEH goes out with a possible broken collarbone, and Jim asked Tony what it was like to play with that injury. So he's like, both of them suck, but yeah, it's only going to take the only way to fix those injuries is time. Mm-hmm. So is that going to be a big hit for this Kansas City offense? Williams stepped in very nicely. He's been there for, it's not like he's just a plug-in for this year. He's been there for a handful of years. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's Mahomes playing within what they're giving him, and that defense actually playing defense. Yeah. And they are looking like, to me, the best team in the AFC right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's, I never really shied away from them. I kind of said all along this was going to be the team to beat in the AFC, and obviously they looked like shit in the beginning of the season. They looked like shit in the middle of the season.
Weren't they like 2 and 3 or some shit, or it was just crazy. The start they got off of was horrible.
And there was a time where and it wasn't just us, but everybody was talking like the Patriots were going to be the best team, and the Bills were going to be the best team. And I don't think there's any question who the best team is in the AFC right now. I think it's these guys easy, and I think you got to go through another team before you even get into the conversation where you do talk about the Bills and the Patriots. And obviously they had their game today, which was a big game. But I still think there's another football team in the AFC. We're going to get to them here. Who is better than those two teams?
And now Kansas City they're at Cincinnati, which is going to be a huge game because Cincinnati is on a fucking roll. Joey B throws for almost 7,000 yards today. and then they're at the Broncos, which the Broncos are pretty much dead. But that's a rivalry game, so you never know. But the Bengals game is going to be an amazing game to watch, especially in Cincinnati. That's going to be huge. That's going to be huge.
Yeah, and a huge game for Cincinnati.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a huge game for both of them, but it's an even bigger game for Cincinnati.
Yeah, and it's going to be one of those games for Cincinnati that they've traditionally sucked in here lately. So going to be interesting to see where that goes. But number 2 team in the AFCs is the Tennessee Titans. 2Ks get a big win, as we talked about, without Derrick Henry. And it doesn't seem like I did hear a rumor that if it comes down to Week 18, which would be they have the Dolphins come into Tennessee next week, then they're at the Texans. And from what we saw today, 2Ks, the Texans are no fucking joke. I mean, Dougie Mills and that squad, Jesus, they laid it on the Chargers today. And I put together a 13-team parlay today, and it was doing quite well. And I think if Kansas City wins, I will have lost 2 of them because I picked Seattle over my Bears, but. I did hear a rumor that Henry could come back Week 18 if they needed him, which it's looking like the chances to make the playoffs are 95% or 99%. Excuse me. The chances to win the division are 95%. So will they need him for the final push? I don't know, but that would be a huge ace in the hole going into the playoffs with a extremely rested Derrick Henry going into the playoffs. That would make them very, very dangerous. Very. But your Pats, New England's at number 3, and they have they probably have the easiest of the remaining teams here. Jacksonville comes into Foxborough, and then they go to the Dolphins. So their chances to make the playoffs are 98%. Chances to win the division are 55%. Because I believe if the Bills win out, they win that division. And the Bills look good today. Bills look really good today. And then
that last game for the Patriots is with the Dolphins. The Dolphins are, the Dolphins have benefited from playing a very, very easy schedule for lack of a better term, but that's not an easy dub for them. No, the Dolphins they're playing well. Tua has been playing pretty good football. The defense has been phenomenal. They've started to figure it out with the running game. Jalen Waddle's been a beast. So that Dolphins team is kind of a scary team to run across.
And they traditionally have had Belichick's number in the past. So I'm not saying it's an easy game, but it's the easiest remaining schedule. Sure. But we talked about the Bengals. I mean they're sitting in the number 4 spot, and they have the Chiefs coming in, and they're at Cleveland. Who knows what the fuck Cleveland is at this point? But I think you and I have been 2 of the biggest Joey Burrow fans out there. I fell in love with this kid when the Bengals drafted him, and I think I've said it publicly many times. Without that injury, I think he sets the records that Herbert set last year, and I don't know. I'm just a huge fan, and the way they're doing things, the pieces that they put around Burrow, I think they're doing very good. The only thing that scares me with this team, 2Ks, is they're young and inconsistent. But when they're on, good God, they're on. Yeah. Good God, they're on. But the number 5 team, are these fucking Colts a team, dude?
This is my number 2 team. This is the team I was talking about.
This is the hottest team in the NFL right now. Hottest fucking team in the NFL.
This is the last team that I want to come across
125%.
in the AFC. If I'm the Chiefs, the last team that I want to see is this Colts team because they can run the football. They have the best running back behind the best offensive line, and they have a very, very good defense. They have good receivers. They have Carson Wentz, who's been playing really, really well. And to me, the only thing that can fuck them up is Carson Wentz.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
But to this point, he's done nothing to fuck that up.
Well, it's hard to fuck it up when you complete 5 passes in a game.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Hey, we watched it a couple weeks ago with Mac Jones.
Yeah, he threw it 3 times. But no, it says it here. Chances to make the playoffs 95%. Chances to win the division 5%. Just because that Tennessee team got out of the gate really strong, and Indianapolis stumbled out of the gate. If Indianapolis comes out of the gate as fast or as good as the Titans did, you'd see this Colts team sitting atop that division, no holds barred. But it took them like 4 or 5 weeks to realize, hey, we got this dude back here that's pretty fucking good. When we started going on a run last year is when Jonathan Taylor got the ball a lot. Oh, let's hand it to him again. And let's keep handing it to him. And we've seen when they played Tampa and they lost, I think they rushed maybe 10, 11, 12 times. And they had Carson Wentz. They forced Carson into throwing it a lot. Which Carson is a serviceable. I put him one step above like Jimmy G. Yeah. And I mean he can put a game on his back. Is that where you want all your chips to fall? No. But he's done it. He can do it. And I think a combination of Jonathan Taylor being the fucking dude and Michael Pittman Jr. actually being the player that a lot of us thought he was going to be is kind of opened this whole team up. The defense is just, I mean, you've got another defensive MVP candidate on that, which he didn't play today. But that dude's legit.
Oh, yeah.
That whole defense is legit. So, yeah, this team right here, and they're playing the Raiders and the Jags. So their chances of winning out are very good. Yeah. Very good. So, yeah, any team in football, whether it's the AFC or the NFC, I wouldn't. If I'm the NFC, I'm thankful I'm in the NFC, so I don't have to play this team. And we've talked about it before. The running game can travel, and defense travels. Doesn't matter how hard the wind's blowing. Doesn't matter how much rain and snow or anything else is happening. The running game will travel. So that team to me is scary, scary good, and sitting with hopefully if everything plays out, which it should, in an 11-6 Colts team, that's legit, bro. And there were so many people that they were already throwing this team into their grave. So I think that that is a very, very, very scary team. Very scary. And we kind of talked about them here a little bit, but the Chargers. Yeah. The Chargers.
They lost one today that they just can't. You can't lose.
No.
You cannot lose to Houston. You just cannot lose to that. And I get it. They had some guys out and injuries and COVID and whatever, but it doesn't matter. You cannot lose to this Houston
team. How
team.
can you let Rex Burkhead go off? What was it, like $130 or some shit and two rushing touchdowns?
Yeah, I haven't seen him score a touchdown since he was in Nebraska.
I mean, granted, this goes to show you how banged up my fantasy team is. I had him starting, so I was grateful. And yeah, the amount of points he scored today was probably the amount of points he scored all season combined. And what's even better is that I was playing you, so that's even more better. So, but no, and then I want so badly to love this team. I love Austin Eckler. I love Justin Herbert. I love those receivers. I love their coach. I really do. Is he a little too aggressive sometimes? Yeah. Is it to his own detriment? Yes. But sometimes you got to take a step back. And yes, I know that 6 points is more than 3. But here's the kicker, 2Ks. 3 is more than 0. So,
I mean, if he takes the points last week in that Chiefs game,
they win.
I think, yeah, absolutely. I think they win it. And I get it and I respect it. Being aggressive, especially when you face a team like the Chiefs, where you got to get as many points as you can because you got Mahomes on the other side of the field that's going to put points up. But man, and for 3 quarters, Mahomes wasn't very good that night.
No, he wasn't.
So to me, you have to take the points while you can. Now, if Mahomes was lighting it up on the other side,
go for it.
And you got to be aggressive, fine. But that Chiefs offense for 3 quarters of that game was not very good. And so to me, in that situation, you have to play the situation of what's happening on the field throughout the game. You got to take the points, and if he does that, that's a whole different ball game. But then today, when we've talked about this all season long, they're just not consistent. They're not consistent. They haven't been consistent all year. You can't give up 41 points to Davis Mills,
Dougie Mills,
and Rex Burkhead on the offensive side of the ball. Like, you cannot give up 41 points and expect to be a playoff team or a team that's going to do anything if they were given the opportunity to be in the playoffs. After seeing that loss today, I've lost it with them. Like, I get it. They got Broncos and Raiders, probably two wins the rest of the way out. But this isn't a team that, even if they are there, I'm not taking this team seriously.
No. And then kind of keep cruising through the AFC. Number 7 is the Bills. Chances of making the playoffs 84%. Chances to win the division 50 or 45%. They took care of the Patriots today. They got the Falcons and the Jets coming up. I really like this team. This could be a team in the playoffs. They can make some noise in the playoffs. I'm a huge Josh Allen fan. The only thing that scares me with this team is the running game. But these last 2 weeks, we've seen Devin Singletary kind of go off. So maybe that is, they're leaning towards that right direction to where that's going to take some pressure off Josh Allen.
Kind of the same conversation that we talked about earlier with the Rams. Yeah, the Rams finally decided, take some of the weight off of Matthew Stafford, and the same thing for the Bills. Take some of the weight off of Josh Allen and let this offensive line go to work and let Singletary do his thing. And Josh Allen is still going to rush for 30, 40 yards, in games and probably have a rushing touchdown in a lot of games. But
I don't want to tackle.
Let the game kind of come to him a little bit more instead of just letting him drop back and throw 40 times and get hit, and because the guy does not, as big as he is, you still got to try to avoid a little bit of contact because you got to have him on the field, but he doesn't avoid contact very much ever. And
keep in the back of your mind too that Mitch Trubisky is your backup there. So I mean, there's a great drop off.
Big drop off, yeah. So
there's a huge drop off, which granted on every team there's a drop off, but.
But I mean, I think they showed today that they are the best team in that division. That the Patriots won the game a couple weeks ago because of the weather.
Yeah, that was.
If the weather's anything, we saw it today. The Bills are a better football team. I think that when we talked about the AFC in the big picture, the Chiefs are the best team. I think the Colts are number 2 right now. The Colts are not going to play out that way because they're not going to be able to get ahead of Tennessee because of the hole that they dug themselves in.
Yep.
But if I'm looking at them, how they're playing right now in this part of the season, I think they're the number 2 team in the AFC. They're a scary team.
Power ranking style.
Yes. And I have Buffalo at number 3.
Yeah, I 100%, 125% agree. But next team, and it's probably the last team we'll talk about on the AFC side, are the Ravens dead?
Yeah, they're dead. Yeah, they're dead. And
honestly,
this Ravens team...
This makes me sad. This Ravens team should be way better than this. They should, especially this year, they should have walked away with that division. But it's injuries and COVID and everything else has just basically bent them over. I mean, they started to do, was it Josh Johnson or some shit? Granted, he balled out. But is he Lamar Jackson? No. This is the same Baltimore Ravens team that had their top 2 running backs snap ACLs before the season even started. So they've been running back poor this whole season. And if you have a healthy Ravens team, in my opinion, they walk through the AFC North, and this is theirs to lose, and it will be theirs to lose again next year, because if that team stays intact and if everyone is healthy, just because of Lamar Jackson and that just the offensive line, the running game, they're only going to get better through free agency and the draft, and that defense has always been legit. They have the best kicker on the planet, so
they have arguably the best kicker ever.
Yeah. So I mean, that putting all that together, just to me is a very and now they've gotten that playoff win. They've got Lamar's gotten that monkey off of his back. I think that's only going to lead them forward and just propel them into next year. It's just extremely unfortunate that all these guys had to waste a year of their career because of everything that's happened. Yeah. And the Steelers are dead. The Raiders are dead. The Dolphins they were a good story. They went on a good run, but to your point, they're beating teams that they should beat.
Yeah, exactly. But with this Ravens team, man, maybe there is some biasness there with obviously with Jim Harbaugh being the coach for Michigan and me being such a Michigan fan, but man, you gotta love John Harbaugh. Like just the type of coach that he is. He's the biggest players coach I think I've ever seen. And you go back and obviously we talked a little bit about the way that the Chargers have coached some games down the stretch here where they've gotten aggressive. And you can say the same thing about Harbaugh. He's been a little bit over aggressive these last couple weeks. But early in the season they had a game, I think it was like week 2 with the Chiefs, where they could have just kind of settled in, played for a field goal, and instead, I think you could see it. It was getting ready to go to a commercial, and Harbaugh called a timeout, and he flat out yelled for Lamar and asked Lamar if he wanted to go for it.
Yep.
You want to go for it, and put it in his hands, and allowed Lamar to do it. Lamar, gets the first down. They move on. They go down. They score a touchdown. They win the ball game. Chances are you kick a field goal, you play for the tie. Patrick Mahomes beats you. But he went and he got it. And then you look a couple weeks ago and it was a Pittsburgh Steelers game. He decided to go for it. That there was a conversation. That was Lamar was still healthy then in that game. There was a conversation where he basically said, "What do you guys want to do?" And then last week in the Packers game, he did the same thing, and it wasn't Lamar. It was Huntley who was playing out of his mind. Huntley has played phenomenal. Obviously, he didn't play today, but he's been playing phenomenal. And I think it was going to a commercial, and you could see where he yelled for Mark Andrews, another one, one of the best tight ends in the game.
Who's quietly becoming the best tight end in the league.
Yes, calls for him to come over there, and so you got. I mean, as a fan, I love that shit. Like if I'm a Ravens fan, like I love that kind of shit, and it doesn't always work out. But with in that Packers game, if they don't get it, if they don't go for 2 and try to win that game right then and there, Aaron Rodgers is going to go. He's going to get them in field goal range, and he's going to probably win that game.
Like
so
45 seconds or something like that. We've seen it this season where Rodgers has done that.
Yep. I mean, you can knock it. You can. I think with that decision that Harbaugh made, it's easy to blame them because they didn't get it. There's a good chance they do get it, and they take the lead, and Rodgers still goes down, gets them in field goal range, and they lose. But Crosby, we talked about Crosby and how shaky he's been.
Yep.
So. To me, I love that kind of shit. I've never been a Ravens fan, never been jumped and rooted for them for anything, but I respect the hell out of Harbaugh and the type of coach he is and where he does put, because not a lot of coaches are like that.
Well,
even as good as Tom Brady has been throughout his entire career, do you think there was times where Bill was like, "What do you want to do?"
Never.
Fuck no.
Never.
Fuck no.
And he's that type of coach too that you. I mean, granted, they've made the Super Bowl, they've done that, and probably probably to their own detriment because they signed Flacco to a huge deal, and Flacco ended up being a bum. But you never hear about him being on the hot seat at all. Same with Mike. I mean, you're getting some grumblings out of Steeler fans about Mike Tomlin, but when it comes down to the Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger just isn't good. The wheels have fallen off Big Ben.
That offensive line is
horrible.
Is trash, and
it's
that
horrible.
defense has been trash. And I mean, they seems like they're falling behind. by 20 points in the first fucking half and digging themselves a hole that they can't get out of.
This was the third. If I read the graphic correctly, this was the third. This first time in NFL history a team has fallen behind by 23 points or more in 3 straight games. And to me, it's poor offense because you're not scoring points. Poor offense because you're constantly having the defense come on. I think that defense is good. Mm-hmm. It's just by the middle of the third quarter, they're gassed as fuck because they've been on the field 3/4 of the game. And with the dudes they have on defense, the Minka Fitzpatricks and the Watts and the Haywards, and I mean, you have some great names there, and that's what they've hung their hat on for the longest time, is having that quote unquote steel curtain defense, but that hasn't been there. And I'm not putting it all on the defense, saying that the defense is horrible. I just think that the offense continues to put the defense in horrible situations because Ben's turning the ball over. Hell, even today, Johnson grabs the ball, takes 2 steps, and it falls out of his hands. Yeah. It seems like every time the Steelers tried or had something going, something would happen, and it would just get all fucked up. And I think it starts with Ben. And Ben's been a very, very good quarterback for a long time. And it's hard to watch someone that's been at that level for a long time have the wheels fall off like that. And, it seems like the only one that has not had that happen is Brady. And I think eventually it's going to happen to him too.
Oh, for sure.
Because, like they say, Father Time is undefeated. Is undefeated, and we saw Peyton fall from glory. We saw Favre do it. It stinks because of the situation they're in. Yeah. The quarterback of the future is not on that roster. Mason Rudolph is horrible. Dewey Haskins is horrible, and even if they're sitting at 7 and 8 or some shit, I think it was, and 7, 6 and 1. I think they're 7, 7 and 1 now.
Yeah, 7, 7.
If this would be Mike Tomlin's first losing season, do I think that Mike Tomlin should be on the hot seat? No.
No.
I think Mike Tomlin is one of the top 5 coaches in the league. And if for whatever reason he does end up leaving there, I think it's going to be a huge mistake.
No, for sure. I mean, they were talking about this a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And what do? He fucking won I don't know how many games in a row with backup quarterbacks and were able to get into the playoffs and give themselves a chance. No, like you said, he is. He's definitely a top 5 coach. The only thing that has me a little bit worried with this team this year is just some of the stupid shit that you see, like you catch a ball today, you make a turn, and then you just drop the ball. It wasn't like anybody come in and jarred it loose.
No.
You just dropped it.
Yeah.
And you go back a couple weeks ago, pick on your Notre Dame guy, and he's fucking
Chase Claypool's horrible,
flashing the first down sign when you guys are in a 2-minute drill or 30-some seconds left to go,
which cost them a play.
Yeah, absolutely. The ball gets kicked around, and it did. It cost him. It definitely cost him a play. And why are you doing that in the first place? You're fucking losing.
Yeah.
Today, I was watching the game, and a guy broke up a pass in the end zone when they were down 20-0, and he was like cheering up to the crowd and shit and throwing hand signals, and I'm like, you're fucking down by 20 points.
Yeah.
And you got burnt on that. The quarterback just made a bad throw, and it ended up being incomplete through the back of the end zone, and you're throwing up signs to the fan. Like, what?
Yeah.
That's the shit that you just don't normally see with a Mike Tomlin team. Like, it's almost like he's lost this team a little bit.
Yeah.
And maybe it is just the poor play throughout the entire season. No consistency. The offensive line has been garbage. Ben Roethlisberger, this is it for him. At wide receiver, they got so much talent there, but it just hasn't panned out. The defense has been bad. T.J. Watt, who is one of the best defensive players in the NFL, injuries all season. Just nothing has really went right for this team.
And he's only leading the league in sacks.
Yes.
And he was on pace to break Shanahan's record. And I think healthy all year, he would have destroyed that. He would have destroyed that record. But no, I I think that, but if you're a Steelers fan, what would scare you the most is where do you get the replacement for Ben? It doesn't look like you're going to get it in the draft.
Like in this draft,
And I mean, there was rumors with Aaron Rodgers going over there, but I think him and Green Bay have kind of worked shit out.
This kid that was playing quarterback for a couple weeks with a division foe in Baltimore.
Yeah,
Huntley should be definitely in consideration. There's going to be teams that are going to want.
Oh yeah.
That are going to want him because the way that he played for 2 weeks, he was definitely a top. He was in the top 20 of quarterbacks throughout the entire league.
Easy, yeah, and
he could definitely be higher than that. I just need to see more of him.
Yeah, and getting he had that success with, like we said, a running game that's who knows, and is he as agile as Jackson? No, but
he's pretty damn good.
Yeah, there's only few people walking on the earth that can do what Lamar Jackson does. But no, he filled in quite nicely indeed. But it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be the heir to the throne in Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh's not a town that has a lot of turnover, period. And you're going to get Juju back healthy. Is he going to come back and be that number one? Because I mean,
he's another one that's just a fucking distraction.
Yeah.
And it
dancing on logos and TikToks and everything else. And
Claypool's too worried about music at practice and throwing up first down signs in the middle when there's 30 seconds left on the clock and you're down. Mm-hmm. And it just seems like they're talented. I mean, Claypool has the tools and the talent to be one of the best.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But it's between his ears that he'll. I don't know if he'll ever get to that point because he's got a huge problem between his ears, and it's all. I don't know if it's an ego thing. He went to Notre Dame. He's smart. It's not that he's not smart, but it's an ego thing. And the thing we've seen so long with Mike Tomlin teams is it seems like guys that go to the Steelers and play, they're really, really good at sitting that ego to the side and just winning fucking football games.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter what happens. What else happens? Obviously, you had your Antonio Browns and your Le'Veon Bells, but those guys are gone. And Tomlin was not one that was like he was not okay with that shit. And there's a reason why they went.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that the biggest thing that's holding this team back is leadership, and I'm not pointing at coaches because, like I already said, they're very well coached, but Roethlisberger throughout his tenure there has never been a vocal leader. He hasn't been the Tom Brady, the Aaron Rodgers, the Peyton Mannings. Like they command that offense. This is their offense. It is literally my way or the fucking highway. That's come more from the top, and I think there's a disconnect there. That if they did have one of those seasoned vets, and I'm not saying it has to be quarterback, but somewhere on that offense, because you've been in huddles, shit self-polices itself, and when there's no voice to do the policing besides the head coach or the offensive coordinator or even a position coach, that's different than one of your peers saying, the fuck are you doing? Get your head out of your ass and let's go.
And for so long, though, Roethlisberger, I think, like you said, he's never been real vocal, but he's played to it. Yeah, exactly. He could play to the caliber of a top 5 quarterback in the league, and he did it for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I think that gained the respect in the locker room, and people, they wanted, we could win with this guy. Yeah. And I think now, the way that he's playing, and this is no knock on Ben, this is just that he's
Hall of Fame career.
Absolutely. This is just that age has hit him and injuries have hit him, and he just can't do it anymore physically. But I think he's kind of lost that respect from his teammates
that's what I'm saying,
because he's just not that guy anymore.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. Well, 2Ks, that kind of wraps up our little Q&A here. Before we get out of here, though, since we won't speak to the 2K crew until after, which, if you haven't figured it out, 2K crew, we're gonna have a big fucking show next week. Yeah. We got a lot to talk about. Yeah. We got a lot to talk about. We're gonna have NFL news. We're gonna have bowl news, but more importantly, we're gonna have college football playoff news. You're going to get our reactions. You're going to get our takes. You're going to get our, most likely, some early predictions.
Yeah. By the time we meet up and talk, the stage will be set.
Mm-hmm.
We'll know who will be playing.
Oh, is that a little? You're kind of hinting at where you're going here. What's the final score, 2Ks? What is the final score, Michigan, Georgia?
Oh man, I haven't even really thought about this yet.
It's a 3.5 point spread. 6.
No, it's up to like 6.5.
Is it?
Yep.
It's the Notre Dame game's 3.5. That's right.
Man, I do think Michigan wins. I think Michigan wins this football game. Obviously Georgia's been good all year long, and up until the Alabama game, it really had no test. Mm-hmm. Going back to week 1 with the Clemson game was really the only true test they had all season long, and Alabama just fucking embarrassed them.
Yeah.
And I think not only did they embarrass them, but I think they exploited them a little bit. To that this team is not.
They bent them over.
Yeah, this team is not
bare-assed and everything.
Not what everybody thought they were. Because everybody on the planet thought that this Georgia team was just they were gonna beat the brakes off of everybody, and they were the national champion unless something just drastically happened.
Mm-hmm.
And
something drastic did happen.
Yeah, it did, and it's over. I think Michigan. I think Michigan wins this game. I think it's a close game. I think both these defenses are very, very good, and I think points are going to be kind of hard to come by.
What's the over/under at?
I don't even know either. I haven't really looked a whole lot into it.
God, what did we keep you around for, dude? Hold on.
I've tried to just stay away from this one a lot. I don't like to really. It seems like every single time I've come on and ran my mouth about Michigan, they blow it. But when I just don't say anything about it, they tend to win. I never really talked a whole lot about the Ohio State game, and they won that game. And then the one game where I did do a little bit of talking in it was the Michigan State game, and obviously we know what happened there.
Well, I'll give you my prediction. 27-24, Michigan.
I was going to be close to that. I'm going to say...
Where the fuck is this game?
I'm going to say 24-20, Michigan.
24-20? All right. Well, we're both in the same ballpark. And I know this is great radio right now. And as a good host, I'd have this. But it is currently at a 7.5 point spread.
Which I would take Michigan all day as a betting man. I mean, throw the fandom aside. I'm taking...
Give me the points.
Yes,
all
absolutely.
Fucking and the over-under set at 45. Very low. Very low.
I like Michigan's... I mean, obviously the front seven of Georgia's defense, that's what everybody's ranting and raving about all day. I like Michigan's offensive line, though. That offensive line...
they've run all over everybody.
Down the stretch of the season, they were starting... There was a push. And then on top of that... Haskins as a 6'2" running at you, and he's not a little guy at all. I mean, and I think you get wore out, trying to tackle him as the game goes on. But then they can go to Blake Corum and they can go to Edwards, and they got 3 running backs there that are very, very good. Mm-hmm. And then can kind of. I just think that there's a little bit more. I think Georgia offensively is very, very basic.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they got a lot of talent, especially at receiver. But they're very, very basic. Quarterback situation on both teams is very similar. Mm-hmm. McNamara, I don't think people have seen enough of him.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
I think Michigan has, when you run the football as well as Michigan has, you really don't need to see. I mean, it's like talking about the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
How much do we really need to see Carson Wentz throw the football when they can just keep running the football with the best running back in the league and behind the best offensive line? Well, I kind of think it's very comparable with Michigan right now, and the way that they've been winning games down the stretch of the season is they haven't really needed to use McNamara to throw the football. It seems like down the stretch, when he's needed to make throws, he's made them.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't thrown very many interceptions all season long. He hasn't made big mistakes, and I think if he can play that style where Georgia's not able to turn him over, I think Michigan wins this game. I do. I think I like what they have at running back. defensively, I like what Michigan does defensively. I think they're very, very good. And obviously, with the rushing attack, I mean, we saw how Alabama was able to get to the quarterback against them. Mm-hmm. Something tells me, if anything, is more, if that game plays a little bit more of a similar style where Georgia has to start throwing the ball, I think Hutchinson's going to get to him, and I think Ajabu's going to get to him, and that Michigan pass rush that we've been seeing all season long. So it's going to be a close game, but I think Michigan wins it.
Yeah, and I got $20 free from FanDuel as a Christmas present, and I laid all 20 of those dollars on the Michigan money line.
There you go.
Michigan money line is plus 225 if you're interested right now.
And then the turnover to the other game, we'll talk about that one real quick too. The Alabama-Cincinnati game. I think everybody's just saying that Alabama's it has a cakewalk here, and I don't fucking think that way. Like people have like all season long, and even and Alabama fans have been the same fucking way, and SEC fans have been the same fucking way also. Mm-hmm. All season long, this Alabama team was different. They weren't as good, and this wasn't the same Nick Saban team that we've been seeing, throughout the years. And this team wasn't good enough. And defensively, they weren't. They were very solid, but offensively, the offensive line couldn't protect Young, and they had question marks here. No running game at all, and like this. I mean, leading up to the SEC championship game, we were talking. Mm-hmm. Everybody was saying Alabama wasn't going to be in the fucking playoff.
Right.
And then they have
myself
one
included.
Game. They have one game. They have one game, and now they're the best team in college football, and nobody can even play on the same field as them.
Yep.
And that's what we're hearing. And I think Cincinnati can play on the same field. Do I think Cincinnati is going to win this game? I do not.
Do you think they'll cover? 13.5.
I think they'll cover. Yes, I think they'll cover.
It's spread's 13.5. Over-under's 57.5.
That injury with Mechie being out for Alabama, that hurts them a little bit. And then the secondary of Cincinnati is very, very good. I don't think Bryce Young's going to be able to just sit back there.
Overall, very, very well coached.
And pick that defense apart. And then offensively, I think Cincinnati can score some points. This Bama defense is not, they're very, very good.
They almost lost to an Auburn quarterback who was basically dead.
Exactly.
I mean, the dude was limping around. And it took him to 4 or 5 overtimes. Get the fuck out of here.
I mean, the only reason why right now, if I was betting with my brain, and I would say that Bama is probably my favorite to win it all, it's the Nick Saban effect. It's the big spotlight, the big game. Nick Saban seems to always have his guys ready to go. You can't say that about Kirby Smart because he's probably the worst. He's probably worse than Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
And Jim Harbaugh has never played in this playoff. He's never played in these big games. And, this year was able to beat Ohio State, was able to, kind of go off of the big high and come back and finish off Iowa like they should have, and was able to do that and win the Big Ten outright. But when it comes to the big game, he's never seen this yet. Mm-hmm. So that situation, you almost just have to give it to Saban there. He has to be the favorite.
It's to the point now he's almost out of rhythm, out of schedule.
Yeah.
When he's not playing for a national title.
But one thing I will say too is I think Cincinnati is a good enough football team to where we had a month to lead up to this 4-team playoff. We knew who the 4 teams were going to be. Cincinnati's a good enough football team to where I think Saban and Alabama had to practice and prepare for them, and they couldn't necessarily prepare for Georgia or Michigan.
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
I think Cincinnati was a good enough team where they had to. Everything has to be on Cincinnati. The focus, and I know that all coaches are like, "Well, we got to look at what the next game is. We can't look ahead." Oh, bullshit! There's a lot of situations where you can look ahead and look through teams, but I think Cincinnati is a good enough football team that they have to. Alabama has to focus in on just them, and they can't. It's going to be when the clock hits 0 on that game, then they can start focusing on. Whoever wins, well, obviously they won't know until later that night, but so.
Which, getting to that point, I'm kind of shocked that Saban isn't taking the primetime spot.
I mean, that Michigan-Georgia game has it, man. That can be a knockout, drag out.
It's the Saban effect. You would think they would give Saban primetime any time that he was, you could give it.
And
to
if it
him.
would have been, in my opinion, if everything would have been done correctly, it should have been Alabama, Georgia playing again.
Which I think we all agree the committee did not want that again.
No, and that's exactly what it is. Because I think that they should have played against each other again, and it should have been Michigan Cincinnati, and then it would have been flip flop. Michigan Cincinnati would have played at 4, but for me now as a Michigan fan, like. Obviously, I want to beat Georgia, and I'm not focusing on anything until that Georgia game's over because Georgia's a hell of a football team. Michigan's going to have to play their best game of the season to beat them.
Yep.
But if Michigan gets past Georgia, I don't want anything to do with Cincinnati. I want Alabama because I know motherfuckers are going to always say, if Michigan was to go on and win
you beat Cincinnati.
You beat Cincinnati.
You couldn't beat Saban.
Yeah. To me, you as a true Michigan fan, you want to go through the SEC. You want to knock out the two best SEC schools, and Kirby Smart in Georgia, and Nick Saban in Alabama. And if you can do that, that is...
Yeah, I agree.
You know, that, to me, I think Harbaugh's already kind of got his extension, maybe possibly his lifelong contract there with Michigan. But if he wins, was to win this and go through those two teams, like, put a fucking statue.
Yeah.
Put a fucking statue up.
Could you imagine a statue of a dude? And how do you immortalize khakis and bronze?
Hey, he ain't wearing the fucking khakis anymore, and I think that's he's been wearing the navy pants all season long.
That's true. Yeah.
Threw the khakis out, and
maybe he's getting tired of being confused with Jake with State Farm.
He's a change man this year.
You called for it in the offseason, dude. You told
it needed to happen. It saved his job.
Yeah.
It saved his job, and
quite possibly all of his hair.
And obviously, people always want to talk about the coach this, the coach that, and he plays a huge factor in it. But these players have stepped up to it. I mean, the leadership of this is a very, very different Michigan team than what we've seen, in the last 15 years.
I agree. I could not agree more. And as much of a non-Michigan fan as I am, I'm so looking forward to these games, and it's not. And I'll say it right now because obviously, I put my money where my mouth is. I've already told you where my bet is. Mm-hmm. So I want Michigan to win this game. So yeah, I'm move over because I need a spot on the bus. I need a spot on the bus.
Oh, there's plenty of room. There's plenty of room. Come on.
And I promise I will not be wearing my Ann Arbor's a whore T-shirt while on the bus. But no, I'm with you. I'm with you. And probably 3 or 4 years ago, I'd be like, you know what? Fuck this team. Fuck Jim Harbaugh. The last thing I want is for Michigan to win a national title. But when you say this year and this team's different, it really is. Mm. It really is, because there's a lot of games that even 2 or 3 years ago that a Michigan team would have lost. Something would have happened and they would have lost. Mm-hmm. And they powered through all of them.
Yeah.
With
the hiccup. They had the hiccup in the middle of the season where they did exactly what has been the knock on Michigan.
And then
for
they just go take a nosedive.
And you would have thought, okay, this is the time where Michigan folds.
Mm-hmm.
They fold now. They'll lose to Penn State. They'll lose to Ohio State.
Yep.
And they'll fold, and it'll just be another, controversial offseason where you think, is Harbaugh out? Is Harbaugh in? What is it going to be? And from that point on, this entire team changed.
Yep.
And I mean, I don't think you can come up with any argument that they're not the best team in the Big Ten. That they weren't this year, because they were. Mm-hmm. And they. Michigan State had their opportunity after they beat Michigan, and they fucking blew it. They lost to Purdue.
Yeah.
And then they get the fucking brakes beat off them by Ohio State. So they blew it.
Yeah. And what I know I've said it probably 5 times this episode, but I agree 125%. Well, 2Ks, is there anything else we need to cover, brother?
No, sir.
All right. Well, 2Ks. Have a happy new year. I know I'll see you before then, but
yeah, I would imagine we'll be watching this game. Yeah, we're talking about both these games together.
Yeah, but 2K crew, everyone have a very happy and safe new year. We will see you next week, and get ready, and you know what? Tell someone, tell a friend, share this. Let's have a little party next Sunday. Let's have a little party, and I want each and every one of you to be here to help enjoy it with us. And I'm looking at the chat here, 2Ks, and we must be getting on someone's radars. We had 2 spammers in our chat. 2 spammers in our chat, and I have no idea what the fuck they say because it's in a different language. So big shout out to you guys. We must be on someone's. We must be doing something right. We must be doing something right. But 2K Crew, we'll get you out of here on this. Everyone, like I said, have a happy and safe New Year. We will see you next week. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.